All right. The South African Tourism Association says red tape is strangling tourism and requires urgent intervention from the president. The tourism sector generates about 10% of South Africa's GDP and creates job opportunities for more than 1.5 million people. The tourism sector is beginning to recover. However, South African tourism says it is being paralyzed by government red tape. For more, we speak to Oupa Pilane. He is the deputy chair of the South African Tourism Association. Mr. Pilane, thank you for joining us on Point. Firstly, before we even get to the nitty-gritties of the tourism sector, I'd love to hear your views on the mask regulation that we heard about this morning. How do you expect this to impact on the tourism sector, and how are you planning to keep guests safe during this time?
Look, we're quite pleased because we are always driven by science. And if the scientists are saying that it is no longer necessary for us to wear masks, we do that. We will definitely follow that science. So we are a responsible tourism sector, and that we will always put certain precautionary measures in our establishment to ensure the safety of our tourists. We are also pleased for the eventing business that now we can be able to recover and attract a lot of tourists into our shores, because many people travel specifically for events. So we're quite pleased by these new regulations and the changes in the regulations.
Right. Do take us back to the kind of red tapes that really strangled the industry that you think, should be maybe revisited in order to help the sector recover.
Look, government enacted a law which says that tour operators must apply for operating licenses. And they said that it will take a maximum of about 60 days for the license to be granted. Mm-hmm. As we speak now, we have tour operators that have not had their license either renewed or granted new licenses for over 5 years. And we're saying that this is ridiculous. You cannot suffocate the tourism sector by putting a law which you are also unable to fulfill. So we are quite disturbed by that factor. And we're saying that the government should really give us a moratorium on this law, which they can't simply get it right. It's absurd that you would definitely be suffocating this sector, because right now, government says tourism is one of their key priority areas, but you are doing everything in your power to make sure that it doesn't function. It is unacceptable.
Right. You're talking about that these licenses, they're supposed to be taking about 60 days, yet some operators have taken up to 5 years. When you engage the department, what is the reason behind the licenses being delayed, or the issuing being delayed?
It's simple government's inefficiencies and really people not doing their job. There is no any other reason, because there are people there that are employed every day to process these licenses, and people are not doing their work. And we still don't understand, why should the NPTR board sit and adjudicate on licenses? Why do boards want to involve themselves in day-to-day operations of departments? We're saying that we are now calling for the president to intervene. The president established a red tape committee earlier this year. We're saying that we want a moratorium on these licenses. Number two, we want a task team to be established. And this task team must involve the tourism sector, because there is enough evidence right now that government does not have the capacity to assist the tourism sector. And number three, we're saying that the current interim board that they have put in place should not follow the old processes that they have been following, which have been suffocating the sector.
Mr. Pilane, seeing that regulations, particularly COVID regulations, are being relaxed right now, let's talk about the opportunities that are there to have new entrants come into the tourism sector so that business can start booming again. Where do the opportunities lie during this time as we begin to recover from the 2-year COVID lockdown period?
Well, the transport sector, in terms of tourism, provides a huge opportunity, especially for new entrants and for transformation in the tourism sector. A number of South Africans, a large number of South Africans, do not have their own vehicles. So they depend on tour operators to take them to the various destinations in our country. Secondly, we are now seeing forward bookings in terms of foreign tourists. And these tourists, when they come into the country, they don't have vehicles. They depend on tour operators. So we are therefore saying that in order for us to open up the sector, we need government to come on board. And therefore, government cannot be a stumbling block for economic growth, for the tourism sector to grow, and for small business sectors to strive and expand their fleet, because right now, people, the current and existing tour operators, they can't even buy new vehicles because they are not getting licenses for their old vehicles. So this is the biggest challenge for us, because we're saying that, please, government, open up get your job, your things that are supposed to be done, your jobs, do your jobs. We really want our people to get jobs, to be employed, and to be able to put food on their table.
Yeah. Mr. Oupa Pilane is the Deputy Chair of the South African Tourism Association. Thank you so much for joining us on Point and sharing your views on what you would like government to work on. And we'll come back shortly after this.